boy, that's Earnhardt.
He's got second. Can he take the lead? Waltrip on the low side of the 33-degree banking runs right alongside Dale Earnhardt. And Jimmy Spencer goes right to the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip as they drop down the backstretch. Tremendous side-by-side racing and a crash. Mark Martin's car lifts off the ground but does not go over. But this crash is going to involve several cars.
You see Hut Strickland in the mud. They're man on the outside, and they're running.
It was bound to happen. Blake's speed is damaged badly, so is Rusty Wallace. The Sunoco car of Terry Labonte on the right side of your screen is damaged. The race for the caution flag comes down.
Three-fourths of the field wiped out.
Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt, and Earnhardt had the advantage by about a bumper. Look at this. Looks like a parking lot. Looks like a junkyard back in the backstretch. Jimmy Means. There is Wally Dallenbach Jr. and Mark Martin's Fords that have been heavily damaged in this crash. And Mark Martin's car got way up off the ground.
We saw those strips coming out the roof of the wind. That was the outside windshield strips that hold the windshield in, or supposed to. It left in Mark Martin's car.
You just felt like that something was going to happen, and here's how it started.
Mark Martin was down on the inside. Ernie Irvin got between he and Kyle Petty, and they touched, and around they go. Look at Mark Martin's car go up in the air.
Comes back down on all four wheels, and meanwhile behind them, those fellows have no place to go. Ernie Irvin is now spun up in the outside wall. Kyle Petty spun the first three cars.
At another angle now in this crash that has taken out several cars. Watch Ernie Irvin.
Yeah. And Ernie Irvin got into Kyle Petty. That was the first thing that happened.
And watch, we see the windshield fly to these automobiles as they turn backwards.
And then several cars become involved, sliding into that wet grass and into the mud puddles. There's Hut Strickland throwing up a big spray as his Buick moved through. Rick Mass slides through the wet grass.
Bill Elliott might have drove through there. There was Terry Labonte, Rusty Wallace looking at their cars, trying to figure out how much damage there is.
There's Davey Allison in the pit. He has extensive damage to the front end of that Haviland Ford. And the pit crew going to work for it. Mark Martin's car is on the hook, or just about to be. He was one of those that... there is Wally Dallenbach Jr., who is out of his car. We may go to red here because the backstretch is essentially blocked. You can see there at the end of the backstretch, there are cars all over the place, not only in the grass, but also on the racetrack itself. There's Dale Jarrett's car up against the wall at the end of the backstretch.
Dale had almost got through, and a couple cars that were spinning in front of him came down and hit him and knocked him into the outside wall.
There's only 21 cars of the 38 made it back to the start-finish line, so there's probably at least 17 cars. There's Chad Little.
Chad Little is out of his car. That's Kyle Petty's number 42. I don't think he is out of the car yet.
We saw Kyle's hand come up out of the car. Meanwhile, I guess they are going to red flag the race.
Well, I don't know. The yellow is still out, but they are leading him down pit road instead of on the racetrack. Here it is once again. Contact between Ernie Irvin and Kyle Petty triggering this multi-car crash. Look at Mark Martin's car go way up on the air, but it came down on all fours. But behind him, everybody gets on the brakes, slides, spins into each other down to the infield grass, creating a chaos on the backstretch.
Rick Mast must have been running 100 miles an hour.
Benny, you mentioned that the several cars had windshields pop out of them, and that's something that we have talked about in the past, how these windshields pop out of cars. We have a further examination in this week's Track Fact, and for more on that, let's go to Dr. Punch. Track Facts are brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
This year, NASCAR's asked all Winston Cup competitors to install straps like this that are 1 inch wide and 1/8 of an inch thick on the outside of the windshield of all Winston Cup race cars. The idea behind this is to try and keep the windshield secured in the race car when the cars get sideways or spin around on the super speedway racetracks where the air rushes inside the car and wants to lift the windshield out of the race cars. And we've all got our fingers crossed that this is the answer to keep them in there.
And that is an explanation of why they use those straps on the race cars. A fabricator for the Rick Hendrick team explaining the situation.
And he's not from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. He's from New Zealand. Tony Price.
Jimmy Means there stuck in the Alka-Seltzer Pontiac trying to get out.
By the way, the red flag has come out. The field has been stopped here on pit road as the drivers gather together to try to talk about what happened that has knocked everybody out of this race. There are only about, 15, 18 cars that made it through. A replay from the in-car of Hut Strickland.
He's hard on the gas. All of a sudden, something hit the windshield. See, the windshield stays in the car. That's the straps we were talking about. And we saw all the water that went through.
It wanted to pop out, but it didn't because of those straps. Now here's the other in-car carried by Lake Speed, Phillips 66 in-car camera.
There we see the contact. Just a little bit of the windshield pops out, but those braces are holding that windshield, a major part of the windshield in.
And the view from Dale Jarrett's car.
Watch Mark Martin way up in the air.
See, Dale almost got through, but then he got hit and knocked him right into the wall. That camera continued to work, though.
You know, Ned, that crumpled hood is altogether too much. I mean, it's becoming too familiar.
It really is on that 21 car.
And there's nothing he could do about it.
Let's go to John Kernan, who's with Davey Allison.
Davey is flying from out of the car. They were working on it, trying to get him back, but they got a lot of work to do, a lot of damage. Davey, you said you saw it happen in front of you.
Yeah, there's just too many people racing too close together, and you know, it's this early in the race. That's stupid. It's a 500-mile race. People don't need to be worried about being up at the front of the pack. You know, most of us were out there trying to run single file. You know, there were some people that were holding us up, and I tried to get back in front of them. When I couldn't get in line, I stayed out of line until I could get in line. I was respecting those other people. But there were a bunch of people out there that didn't respect each other, and that's what caused this.
They will go to work on the Texaco Haviland Ford, try and get him back out, but they do have a busted radiator. The front end is pretty well demolished. Also some damage in the rear end, but the Robert Yates crew has gone to work, and they're going to try and get Davey back out there.
So hopefully Davey can re-enter the competition when we resume this race, but it has been red flagged because of a multi-car pileup on the backstretch here at Talladega Superspeedway. We'll be right back.
Hey, Pam. Neil. Tell Pam that, you know, if we do shoot that thing later on with a Lexan, we can use that shot of the piece hitting the 12 car as proof that it, you know, it didn't go through the windshield, that it held, kept it out.
But exactly what happened, what I talked about earlier, is, you know, is somebody hitting you just in the back, like Ernie just whipped Kyle there and then got
look what a junkyard there. Yeah. See, the problem is the trucks can't get down there to the cars because they're going to get stuck.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah, tell me what you got. They're going to be 18. They're going to be 18 cars.
Yeah. Like Benny says, that's an old.
Yep.
Too familiar sight here. Yeah, he did. I thought he was going to make it.
Yep. Hit that wall hard to the nose, didn't he? Man. But Ned, I mean, it's just impossible to run that close together and then three abreast with that thing like that.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah. It's got to. They'll be hollering about those restrictor plates again.
Well, that thing started to fly like a kite, didn't it?
It did.
I wonder if somebody's hurt back there.
Now, who it would be?
We saw. Did we see Ernie? Yeah.